All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'll pray for us. Father, thank you for giving us the great privilege of being at Bryan College today, and for the even greater privilege of opening your word and looking at these narratives and trying to think your thoughts after you. I pray that you help us today as your people. I pray that we could see the meta-narrative elegance of your word. I pray that it would confront our sin and highlight. So, as always, we'll start with the question, what, if anything, did you find interesting about the homework? What did you find challenging, confusing? Tell me about your experience. Yes, Abby. Yeah, so she, the text says that she had been with 5 different men, and that she was with a man now, but he was a husband, just not her husband. So she's like having an affair, and you do hear a little bit in her voice, I think, the bitterness of life. And the fact that she's drawing water at noon meant probably that she's being shunned by the community. So this is a woman who is just absolutely been sexually abused, and she is ostracized by society, and Jesus meets her at this well. So it's going to be really interesting in the story that we go from Nicodemus, who's kind of the ultimate insider in the story. He's like the equivalent of one of our senators, to a woman who is on the outskirts. And Jesus is interacting with both those people and saying, you've got the same need, and here's the solution. What else did you find interesting? Yes, and is it Peter? Yeah, you're looking at the Messiah, right? Yeah, so it's really interesting, isn't it, that this woman is in the midst of having an affair with a married man, and Jesus speaks so kindly to her, highlights her honesty. He's not like throwing her sin in her face or anything like that, but it's interesting that she's in the midst of having an affair, and when that kind of spiritual conviction comes, she wants to talk about really obscure theology. It's like someone today say, let's talk about the Antichrist, or what do you think about the book of Revelation? So you go from kind of obvious, repent of your sins and walk with God to, tell me about the Antichrist. So it's like, I think she's deflecting, she doesn't want to go kind of in her sin. She wants to go in, let's talk about the most obscure, debated, let's talk about predestination. That's kind of how it goes. And it's interesting because she's just like us, because we do that, I think. All of us do that. Good, Peter. What else did you find interesting or unusual in the homework? Jacob. Yeah. I mean, we're tempted to believe, I think, at least I'm tempted to believe, when you read the story initially, oh, Peter's more savable, because he's somehow inherently more in tune with God. And the truth is, we all kind of have common issues, and it isn't that God saves the more savable people, or he's not saving good people. And we're going to see that this woman actually is the means of grace to save her entire town. I don't know if you picked that up in this story, but like everyone comes to faith because of this woman. And so when Jesus comes and is interacting with this woman who is, mired in sin, he doesn't look at her as, oh, look at this terrible person. It's like, look at this person who will bring God's grace to lots of other people, which I think is very encouraging. Anything else you find interesting in the story? So what we're going to look at today is Jesus and the woman at the well. We're going to look at Jesus and the covenant blessings and curses. We're going to see that this place where this happens is the exact place in the Old Testament where 2 or 3 different times they go through a ceremony and read the covenant blessings and curses from Deuteronomy 28. And I imagine when you read through Deuteronomy 28, you kind of got tired of hearing how bad it's going to be if you break the law. I mean, it's like God's going to get you, God's going to get you, God's going to really, really get you, then he's going to really, really get you, and then God's going to get you, and God's going to get you. And it's like, stop, it's just verse after verse after verse. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but when Jesus is talking to a obviously sinful woman, he's doing it in the shadow of the 2 mountains where at least twice Israel had heard hundreds of thousands of people shouting those texts, saying, if you obey God, you're going to get these blessings, and if you curse God, this is going to happen to you. And this woman had obviously broken the law, but Jesus is coming up with a way to bring that woman blessing, and not only blessing, but to make her a means of grace to other people. So you're hearing the echo of, if you're a good person, this is, or if you perfectly follow the law, this is going to happen to you. And if you don't, this is going to happen to you. And yet Jesus is able to talk to this woman, and she gets the covenant blessings. And it raises the question, how does that work? I mean, is this different from the Old Testament? Or, is God changes his mind? How is it that she, an obviously sinful person, as we're all obviously sinful, how is it that she gets the covenant blessings and they're standing where that ceremony was heard in the Old Testament? We're going to look at Jesus and the rape of Dinah in Genesis 34. And I made a mistake when I put the daily verses together in omitting this passage, because the rape of Dinah is it's one of the most horrific stories in the Old Testament. And it results in the death of everybody who lived in Shechem. Israel uses circumcision to ultimately kill all the men in Shechem, and then Simeon and Levi plunder the city, and they take everybody's wife that's left as a widow for their own wives. And it's happening at the very spot where Jesus is interacting with a woman who has been abused sexually. So we've got this story in the Old Testament about this woman, Dinah, who is abused sexually, and then her brothers in vengeance rise up and kill not only the person who did it, but everybody who lives there. And then, these women need to be married to somebody, so they just take their women, kind of have this little harem thing going, I guess, and it's like, what in the world is that? Like, how does that work? How can you take religion and then use it to like plunder and kill people? And we're going to see the two brothers who do it aren't like these saintly people. Like, they've got this massive issue. So in the Old Testament, you've got this crazy story where a woman's raped, and then the result is just this horrific thing. And Jesus is meeting a woman who's been sexually abused, and all of a sudden the whole city gets saved. So you're reading these two stories in light of each other. We're going to see the hypocrisy of Simeon and Levi, the people who murder everyone, avenging their raped sister. And then we're going to see how Jesus ultimately makes the Bible make sense. Not just the easy things in the Bible, but the hard things in the Bible. So with God's grace, that's what we're going to do today. And if you want to know how I look at the Bible, I look at it this way: it's the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search them out. I think the Bible is the most artistic, powerful, truthful, life-changing book ever written. And I think God has hidden treasures in that book for us to wrestle with and find, and in the process it will make us kings and queens. So here's our story for today. Now, when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize, but only his disciples were baptizing, he left Judea and departed again for Galilee, and he had to pass through Samaria. Now, it's interesting, he had to pass through Samaria. Normally, Jews didn't go through Samaria because Samaria was kind of the wrong side of town. They didn't like the people who were in Samaria. They looked down on them as racially inferior. The people in Samaria had taken the religion of the Jewish people and rewritten it. So it's kind of racial bigotry, but at the same time there was a religious bigotry where the Samaritans had kind of taken the Jewish religion and turned it into a cult. And so people normally didn't go through that way. But it said Jesus had to go through that way. And so he came to the town of Samaria called Sychar, and near the field that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. And Jacob's well was there, so Jesus, wearied as he was from the journey, was sitting beside the well, and it was about the 6th hour. Now, there's some details in this story that are going to be important for us to kind of track down to help us understand what's going on. The first, and whenever you come to a place, it gives you a place and a name, it's usually always worth looking up that place and name. And when we look up what Sychar means, the experts tell us it means one of two things. One, it can mean this word sheker, which means falsehood. So they're going into a city that's called the Lie. Does that sound like a great city to go to or a bad city to go to? It sounds to me like a bad city to go to. And the other way to read the word Sychar is related to the word for sweet wine. So they're going to a city called the Lie, and it may be at the same time called sweet wine. We're going to call it Margaritaville, right? So we can relate to this story. So Jesus is going, and he's going to meet an immoral woman in Drunkville, in Margaritaville, in the Lie, and she's part of a cult. And he's thirsty, and he's at a well. We're told by the Standard Greek Dictionary, Bauer, Danker, Art, Gingrich, BDAG they call it, we're told that the word Sychar is probably kind of a messed up reading of the word Shechem. so that this place, Margaritaville or the Lie or whatever, is the place in the Old Testament that was named Shechem. So we're told exactly where this happened. And when a biblical writer tells you where something happened and gives you the name, it's always worth looking up and asking the question, what happened there before and what does the word mean? Because the way the Bible works is the stories are going to recapitulate themselves. You're going to have a story, and then you're going to have a second story that's really like the first story, and it's recapitulating that story. So, we've got the Adam and Eve story. He's conquered by fruit. He's naked. His kids get cursed. Noah comes along. He's conquered by fruit. He's naked. His kids get cursed. Those stories are recapitulating themselves. Whenever we're going to see, you've got the Sodom and Gomorrah story, and then you've got the Levite's concubine, which is the same story, only now it's like tons worse, because the people in Benjamin do ever so much more wicked things than the people of Sodom and Gomorrah did. And so when you're reading the stories, you read them in light of each other, and they build. That's what's happening here. So, when we talk about that rape of Dinah, this wicked guy named Shechem rapes Dinah, and then he repents. It says he spoke tenderly to her heart. And isn't that the way sexual predators do? They abuse, and then they want that relationship to continue, so they speak to the heart of the person. They try to, what do they call that, Stockholm syndrome or something? They try to get them to love them, even though they've been horrible people. That's what Shechem does. Well, when Tamar is raped, David's daughter, and she's raped by her brother, same exact story, same details. He's so smitten in love with her, and then he rapes her, and she says, this is a horrible thing you did, but you've got to marry me now. And he says, get out. And when she won't get out, he kicks her out of her bed, and he commands the servant to drag her out and throw her in the street. And so we've got Shechem, who's like this horrible person who rapes Dinah, but then Amnon, or whoever his name is, he's like 10 times worse than Shechem was. And so the stories are retelling each other, recapitulating. And so when Jesus is at a well and a woman comes, can you think in the story of all the places where a man and a woman interact at a well in the Bible? Because I can think of 3. Remember when, that's the actual well. It's 110 feet deep. It's a 11-story building deep. That's how deep it was. And this is the actual place. Like Jesus was standing with that woman at this place. Like this was exactly where it happened. It has a church built over the top of it now. But there are a lot of people in the Bible who meet wives at wells, right? In the story. So Abraham's servant finds Isaac's wife at a well. That's how he says, I'm here at a well. I've got camels. They're really thirsty. Let the girl who says, I'm going to ask her for a drink, and the girl who says, I'll give you a drink and I'll also water your camels, let that be the girl. And so Rebecca does it. He ends up giving her a huge amount of money in jewelry for the work that she did, and she ends up marrying Isaac. And Jacob falls in love with Rachel at a well. Rachel comes to water the sheep, and Jacob is smitten in love with her, and he has to work 7 years, and it says he loved her so much that that the years seem like days. And so he worked 7 years, and then they marry. And Moses meets his wife at a well. So Moses and Zipporah. And so when the story tells us that Jesus is at a well and a woman comes to the well, if this is the first time you're reading through it, you're wondering, okay, like, is she going to marry Jesus? Or, I mean, what's going on? These stories are related. In the Old Testament stories, those girls were all virgins. And it said, Abraham to his servant says, make sure the girl's a virgin. But this girl isn't a virgin, so it's like, what's going on? How are these stories related? They're retelling, so that we're meant to understand that these details are important in the story. But some really bad things happen at this place. And so I alluded to the rape of Dinah. Dinah's just walking around. This guy, his name means the shoulder. His father's name means the ass. I wonder if that's like, whatever. So the son of the ass, prince of the land, saw her, seized her, lay with her, humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah, and he loved the young woman and spoke tenderly. I think in Hebrew it says he spoke to her heart. So, like, this is a scumbag of a person, rapes the girl, and then he's trying to talk her into loving him, even though it says he humiliated her. And then he says the same thing Samson said to his father, get this girl for me to marry. So his dad's the king, so he comes. They haven't given the girl back yet. And so he comes and says, okay, how much money will it take, make this right? And you want to say, bud, like, you're going to pay money and think this is going to make... And so, like, you can feel the kind of rage that Jacob had. It's like, okay, you think you can pay money and just rape my daughter? Hamor spoke to them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us, give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Now, this is exactly what God told Israel not to do. Don't intermarry with pagan people. They'll turn your heart away from God. Don't do it. They're saying, you intermarry, we'll become one people. So, Dinah has 2 brothers. Well, she has 4 brothers. Reuben, who's known for sleeping with his father's mistress. And let me just ask the question, is it good for your father to have a mistress according to the Bible? Is it a good thing when you sleep with your father's mistress according to the Bible? No. So this guy's got issues. His next 2 brothers are Simeon and Levi. They're Dinah's full brothers. And so they say deceitfully, we can't do this, give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace. Only on this condition will we agree with you that you become as we are. Every male among you must be circumcised. Now, you probably know what circumcision is. The recovery time for a child who's circumcised is very short. Babies heal very quickly. That's not the case with adults. If you look up the recovery time for adult male circumcision, it's over a month. How bad is it? It's so bad that in Hebrew, when it describes people recovering from circumcision, uses the phrase, while they were in their death, right? I think the ESV translates it while they were in pain, but in Hebrew it says while they were in their death. It's like, how bad off are they? Well, pretty much just kill me now. It's like, okay, this is bad. This is bad pain. And Dinah's brothers say, if you guys will be circumcised, we'll intermarry. And as horrible as Shechem is, he not only says okay, but he has enough sway in the community that he talks all the other adult men into being circumcised. And so they're all circumcised. And Simeon and Levi wait 3 days. And on the third day, while they were sore, I think this is the passage where it says while they were in their death, the two of them got their swords and they went and killed every male person in the city. And Jacob says, now everybody's going to attack me. And the two brothers said, well, should they have treated our sister like a whore? So they kill everybody there. Now help me remember something. What tribe is Moses from? So that's his adopted parents, but like, what's his birth parent tribe? He's a Hebrew, but which one of the 12 tribes is he? He's a Levite. So the Levites are priests, but the Levites here use religion to kill people. Does that seem weird to you in this story? It's interesting that Levi gets religion, circumcision, whatever, and he uses that to kill people. Jesus comes to the exact same place, meets a woman who's been sexually abused, and the result is the whole town is saved. Whatever Jesus is doing is a lot better than whatever Israel had done. But there's a strange ceremony that happens at this place too. Not only does that wicked event of the rape of Dinah happen there, but there's a ceremony that we're given the details of it once, and then that ceremony happens 2 different times. And it happens, we're told in Joshua, at Shechem, and when Jacob was living there, he had bought a little bit of land so that he could pitch their tent there. This is where it's happening. And you see all these places are the same place. Mount Ebal, Mount Gerizim, Sychar, Shechem, Samaria. These are all the same place. In fact, this is a picture of it. That's Jacob's well. This is Mount Ebal. This is Mount Gerizim. And basically what Israel was to do is Israel had 12 sons. Jacob had 12 sons. And the bad ones, like the Reuben who slept with his father's mistress, and then all the ones that were born by concubines, all of those, like 150,000 people. Think Neyland Stadium twice, half over again, out there shouting the curses. The good ones, if there are good ones, are on here shouting the blessings. And the rest of Israel, maybe 3 million people, are here listening to the blessings and curses, and that's where Jacob's well is. So when Jesus comes to the woman, he's coming in the shadow of these 2 places. And so basically, here's what happened in the Old Testament. It will be when you cross the Jordan, you shall set up on Mount Ebal these stones as I commanded you today, and you will coat them with lime. In other words, when you cross the Jordan River, go to the top of Mount Ebal and put, God's commandments on top of that mountain. And it will be, if you diligently obey the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments, which I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth. So if you obey the law, God's going to bless you. All these blessings will come upon you and overtake you if you obey the law. You'll be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. So if you're in the city, God's going to say, I'm going to take that as an opportunity to bless you. If you're in the country, God's going to say, I'm going to take that as an opportunity to bless you. Well, where else is there but the city and the country? Like God's going to say, wherever you are, I'm going to bless you if you obey the law. Blessed will be the offspring of your body. I'm going to bless your children. Blessed be the produce of the ground, the offspring of your beasts, the increase of your herd, the young of your flock. Blessed will be your basket and kneading bowl. You've got to eat. I'm going to make sure that when you eat, it's delicious food. I'm going to bless that. You'll be blessed when you come in. So if you obey the law, when you walk through that door, God's going to say, I'm going to take that as an opportunity to bless you. When you go out, God says, I'm going to take that as an opportunity to bless you. The Lord will cause the enemies who rise up against you to be defeated before you. They'll come out against you in one way and flee before you in 7 ways. If you've ever seen The Matrix, and like the agents come and attack Neo and they start flying through the air. God says, that's what I'm going to do for you if you obey the law. They're going to come and they're just going to get a royal beatdown because I'm going to give you the ability to conquer your enemies. The Lord will command blessing upon you in your barns, in all that you put your hand to. He will bless the land which the Lord God gives you. He will establish you as a holy people, as he swore, if you keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. So all the people will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they'll be afraid of you. You're going to have this respect. You're going to walk in, and people are going to take notice. It's going to be a big deal. You're going to be a big deal. The Lord will make you abound in prosperity, the offspring of your body, the offspring of the beast, produce of the ground, in the land the Lord swore to your forefathers. The Lord will open up his good storehouse in heaven to give you rain in its season, to bless all the work of your hand. You will lend to many nations. You ever bought a new car? You go in and pick out the car. You figure out, can I make these payments? And then you sign your life away for 3, 4, 5 years. You've had that experience. Well, can you imagine going in and the guy starts filling out the loan stuff and you look at him in the eye and say, is cash okay? Matter of fact, while I'm here, can I just go ahead and get 2 of them? Would that be okay? Can you imagine going down to the office and you're kind of making sure that you have enough money in your account, and you just look at the lady and say, while I'm here, can I just write a check for like all 4 years, and like all 4 years of the dorm and 4 years of the meal plan? Is that okay? Can I just do that? Can you imagine if Greece came to you and said, look, we're $3 billion in debt, and you say, okay, Greece, but this is the last time. I'm not going to write another one of these $3 billion checks. And then they come next year. You will lend to nations, and you're never going to borrow a dime if you obey God's rules. The Lord will make you the head and not the tail, if you listen to the commands that I charge you today to observe them carefully. Do not turn aside from the words I command you today, to the right or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. Can you see what's going on here? This is a recapitulation of the Garden of Eden. If you follow the rules, you get to stay in, and I'm going to really bless you. And if you don't follow the rules, then you get kicked out, and I'm not going to bless you. This is a recapitulation of the Garden of Eden. Now, let me ask you, how many of you that sounds like a good deal to you? Like, you're going to, you ever have your dad give you mad money? My dad would give me mad money sometimes. He says, keep this money, and whenever you get really mad, go spend it. I don't know, did any of your parents ever do that? Like, he would give him, my dad was initially very poor in life, and he worked 2 jobs, and he eventually had a lot of money. And he would do that. He would give it to me sometimes, and I thought that was so cool. But can you imagine, instead of like the $100 or the $500, like, says, okay, keep this $50,000 in your pocket, and when you find you're, just really mad, just go do something nice for yourself, it'll help you get over it. Okay, can you imagine? Okay, these $10,000 bills, and you got 5 of them in your pocket. Okay, this sounds like a pretty good deal, right? I don't know how God could have made this deal sweeter, right? He's going to bless you. You sit down, and bless you. Stand up, he's going to bless you. Walk in, bless. Walk out. City, country, going to bless your marriage, your kids, your savings account, your food. God's going to bless everything if you obey. So the question is, if that deal is so good and that's what God's life, why in the world do you and I sin every day in thought, word, and deed? I don't know. Am I speaking for you? I'll say of myself, I sin every day in thought, word, and deed. Why in the world wouldn't you take this deal? This is a great deal. Then God wants us to know what will happen if we don't. And so God says if you don't, then you'll be cursed in this city and cursed in the country. You'll be cursed in your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed in offspring, young. Cursed when you come in, cursed go out. These curses, you'll perish quickly. God will make pestilence cling to you, consumption, inflammation, mildew. Okay, you break the law and you say, okay, I'm going to pray my way out of this, but I'm breaking the law. And God says, I'm going to make the heaven bronze. Your prayers are just going to ping off, right? And you say, okay, well, I'm going to work my way out. I'm going to make the ground iron. I will make the land powder. Your enemies will come. You'll come to your enemies, and you'll be the one who gets the royal beatdown. Your carcasses will be the food for the birds, and boils and bewilderment, blindness. And you'll have darkness at midday, and you'll be robbed. They'll rob you, and you'll fall in love with a woman, and you'll get engaged, and someone else is going to sleep with her, and you're going to build a house, and somebody else is going to live in it, and you're going to plant a vineyard, and you're not going to be the one to get the fruit. Your ox will be slaughtered and taken away, given to your enemies. Your sons and daughters will be taken before your eyes, and you shall not eat the produce, and you'll be driven mad by this sight, and curse 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 and curse, 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 curse. Holy cow. I've got two choices here, right? Follow God and I kind of get, $50,000 mad money make you happy. Don't follow God. Every possible way your life can be miserable. It's going to be miserable. I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but when Jesus stood with the woman at the well, in the shadow of the covenant blessings and curses, what had that woman earned by her life? Had she earned by her life blessings or curses? Curses. And one of those curses was you'll die of thirst. One of those curses was you'll be struck with blindness at midday. One of those curses is sickness. One of those curses is being robbed. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but what had Jesus earned by his life when he stood at Jacob's well? Had he earned the blessings or the curses? He had earned the blessings. So how in the world can Jesus give this woman living water? He gave this woman living water because when he was crucified, what did he receive in life? Did he grope blind at midday? Did they rip up his outer clothes and gamble for his inner clothes? Did he experience pestilence? And did what he saw drive him mad? Spiritually, I think you would say. And the answer is yes. The way that he's able to bring blessings, to begin to incorporate this woman into his ultimate bride, the church, the way he was able to do it is he became one flesh with her. And whatever he did, she did, and he obeyed the law, and so she obeyed the law. And her covenant curses he took to himself. The whole story of the Bible is how do you get the people back to the Garden of Eden? And the way Jesus did it is for anyone who would ever come to him by faith. He merged lives with them, and he took the covenant curses. And because the two merged lives, that means whatever he's done, she's done. And doesn't the New Testament say if we are the children of God, then we're heirs? Heirs of God, joint heirs with Christ. Whatever he's earned is what ultimately will come to us. Now, the prosperity gospel people get it wrong because they don't recognize that there's a now and not yet in the Bible. There are things that are true of us proleptically now, but there's a fulfillment of not yet. If you want to know what your life in heaven with Jesus is going to be like, read the covenant blessings in Deuteronomy 28. That's what it's going to be like. If you want to learn how to play the guitar in heaven, God's going to say, go see this person and be the best guitar player in heaven, and you're going to take lessons, and they're going to teach you how to play the guitar. And your guitar is going to be the nicest guitar ever made because you're the child of God, and that's what God does for his people. If you want to learn to fly an airplane, you're going to be able to do that. If you want to learn to speak a foreign language, that's going to happen. If you want to go have the best coffee you've ever had in your life with the most interesting conversation partners you've ever had in your life, that's what heaven's going to be like, because that's what the covenant blessings are saying. And to get us there, Jesus took the covenant curses for us. The story of the woman at the well helps us see how Jesus makes the Bible make sense. Not only the easy things in the Bible, but the hard things in the Bible. And we have 2 minutes left. Are there questions or comments or observations? I probably talked a little too much today, but all right. Well, I'll see you on Friday.